The bustling terminal of JFK Airport buzzed with energy as announcements echoed overhead, and travelers hurried past with rolling suitcases. Among the crowd was 12-year-old Caleb Turner, a black boy with bright eyes, a quiet confidence, and a simple outfit of a hoodie and jeans. It was his first solo flight, and he was heading to Washington, D.C. to meet his father, Jonathan Turner, the CEO of Airlines, one of the nation's largest carriers. Caleb had been raised to value humility, despite his father's powerful status. His first-class ticket was tucked securely in his pocket, and he clutched a backpack filled with snacks and books about aviation, a passion he shared with his father. As Caleb settled into seat 2A in the first-class cabin, he pulled out a book, excited for the flight ahead. Little did he know, trouble was about to land in his lap. Melissa Porter, a flight attendant in her mid-30s with a no-nonsense demeanor, strode down the aisle, her sharp gaze scanning the passengers. When her eyes landed on Caleb, her expression shifted. "Excuse me," she said curtly, her voice cutting through the low hum of conversation. "Are you sure you're in the right seat?" Caleb blinked, surprised. "Yes, ma'am, this is my seat, 2A. Melissa's frown deepened. "First class isn't for standby passengers or upgrades," she said. "This section is reserved for paying customers." The boy looked around nervously as a few passengers began to glance over. "I have a ticket," Caleb said, pulling it from his pocket. Melissa barely glanced at it before waving it away. "I need you to move to the back. We can't have people sitting where they don't belong." Embarrassed and confused, Caleb hesitated. "But this is my seat," he repeated softly. Her patience wearing thin, Melissa raised her voice. "Either you move now, or I'll have to call security." Tears stung Caleb's eyes, but he grabbed his backpack and walked to the front of the plane, where he stood awkwardly near the exit. Passengers whispered to one another, some shaking their heads, but no one intervened. Back in the terminal, Caleb stood by himself, struggling to hold back tears. That's when Emily Harris, the terminal manager, spotted him. Emily was a seasoned professional, known for her sharp instincts and compassionate nature. She recognized Caleb immediately. "Caleb, what are you doing here?" she asked, her brow furrowing. Caleb explained, his voice trembling. "She didn't even check my ticket, she just made me leave." Emily's expression hardened. "Wait right here," she said, pulling out her phone. Minutes later, Jonathan Turner stormed into the terminal. His tailored suit and commanding presence turned heads as he spotted his son. Jonathan knelt to Caleb's level, his voice gentle. "Are you okay, son?" Caleb nodded, though his eyes were still red. "I didn't do anything wrong, Dad." Jonathan's jaw tightened. "I know you didn't. Let's fix this." Jonathan and Emily walked back to the gate, Caleb in tow. Without hesitation, Jonathan strode onto the plane, his son at his side. The cabin grew silent as passengers realized who he was. Jonathan stopped in front of Melissa, his voice calm but icy. "Are you the flight attendant who removed my son from this plane?" Melissa's face went pale. I didn't know he was your son," she stammered. "That shouldn't matter," Jonathan said firmly. "You didn't even check his ticket. You embarrassed and humiliated a child because of an assumption. Do you treat all customers like this, or just the ones who don't look like they belong in first class?" Melissa faltered. "I thought he was trying to sneak in." "You thought wrong," Jonathan interrupted. Turning to the captain, he said, "This plane isn't going anywhere until this is resolved." Jonathan addressed the passengers, his voice carrying through the cabin. "Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for the delay. This is about more than a misunderstanding. This is about ensuring that no one, especially a child, is treated unfairly because of how they look. My son, Caleb, had every right to be here. Behavior like this does not reflect the values of Sky Airlines and will not be tolerated." The cabin erupted into applause as passengers nodded in agreement. Jonathan turned back to Melissa. You're relieved of your duties for this flight. HR will be in touch. Melissa gathered her belongings, her face pale, and left the plane. Caleb returned to his seat, this time with his father beside him. Are you okay now? Jonathan asked. Caleb nodded, a small smile returning to his face. Yeah, thanks for coming, Dad. Always, Jonathan said, ruffling his son's hair. In the weeks that followed, Sky Airlines announced new training programs on customer service and racial bias. Melissa's dismissal was made public, and Caleb even helped design a new initiative to make air travel more inclusive. What started as an embarrassing moment had transformed into a powerful lesson, not just for Caleb and his father, but for the entire airline industry.